Hey, soccer fans, welcome back to the Feed the Fire podcast. I am your host, Nick, and we are recapping tonight the Chicago Fire's first victory of the season, their first victory under the Greg Berhalter era, a 3-1 performance at FC Dallas. And for a team that was touted to have a high powered attack, Dallas didn't create as many opportunities as I thought they did. Definitely a goal being called back for VAR in the first half kind of helped set the tone and maybe cooled them off a little bit and maybe woke up the fire a little bit. But we're going to get into all of that throughout this episode. We're also going to take a look at some of the scores around the league. And I also want to take a look at some early goalkeeping statistics from around the league. I think one of the storylines that we as Fire fans need to be aware of is how good is Chris Brady compared to other MLS goalkeepers. We've talked about him should be getting starts over Patrick Schulte for the U.S. men's national team. We've talked about him needing to get some more respect from voters around the league. Like he's been on the under 22 list, pretty high ranked over the last couple of years. But where does he stand in the larger scale of goalkeeping? And I actually had someone on the reason this came about was someone from Dallas had tweeted out how Martin Paz is the top 3 goalkeeper in the league. So after Brady and the Fire win, I replied and said, so that means Brady's got to be top 2, right? Well, I had a Philly Union fan saying, are you kidding? And so I kind of want to take a look at it just for my own curiosity. And again, it is a storyline we need to watch because how much better is Chris Brady going to get within MLS? And when he does get transferred to a larger club overseas, how is that going to help his development? And will he eventually be in the USMNT mix? All right, so that's kind of the backstory of everything there. If you want to join the conversation with me, follow along on social media at Glasshouse Soccer or email me glasshousesoccer@gmail.com. Email, and speaking of email, we received a message from Ryan commenting about the game, and it's the perfect way to kind of kick off our discussion of Saturday's match. He says, Nick, what a game. So far this season, I have little faith in the Chicago defense improvement over last season, but I never feel out of the game with our offense. They seem to be able to just turn and go. I know Greg wants to play out of the back in a possession-based game, but I don't think we are currently built like that. Offensively, it seems that when the game slows down and we have the ball in the final third, we don't know what to do. Sounds familiar. Do you think if play continues to look like it has the past 3 matches, Greg should still try to play more possession style? Regards, Ryan. Ryan, thanks for the email. As always, man, great to hear from you. Apologies for not writing back. I'm going to address it in the episode. So here is your response to your email right here. You have a little faith in the Chicago Fire defense, which is an improvement over last season. I'm with you. It has been tough to watch this season, and we are definitely feeling the way we are because of the injury bug, because Tehran is out, because Barroso's been out, and we've had to call up Sam Rogers, who didn't quite look ready for prime time, so they say. And that was another thing that I was thinking about during the course of this game and the course of the first 3 matches is Sam Rogers MLS quality, or is he just needing some more time? And the more I thought about it, I'm going to give Berhalter the benefit of the doubt because he brought him in. He knew Rogers from some of his USMNT experience. And I think that Rogers just needs more time. He looks like he has enough of the physical gifts, but he has to adjust to the pace and the physicality in Major League Soccer. Coming over from the Norwegian League, it's a completely different game. And I think that Major League Soccer is a higher level, or at least a more physical, faster level at the games coming at the center backs, at least. So he's got to adjust, and let's give him a handful of more games. He's going to get a handful of more games, depending on Tehran's health and if we need to rest Elliott on occasion. So I think he just needs a little bit more time, and I think he just needs to get comfortable with the players around him and kind of learn a little bit more of how Berhalter wants to play. That way he is not thinking, I should say. That way he's acting instinctually and being able to play the ball where he knows his teammates are going to be and where he knows his teammates are going to cover for him when he needs to step up and can move into the positions and space he needs to cover. So I'm willing to give Sam Rogers a few more games, a handful of more games, but I would expect him, in an ideal world for the Fire, to be their third or fourth string center back. It also kind of puts Mauricio Pineda into the discussion as well. Is where is he best suited? He's still not 100% fit. Is he going to be more of a third or fourth option center back, or is he going to be more of a fifth or sixth option center midfielder? Where is he going to play? He came in for Kellen Acosta in this match in Dallas when Acosta went out with an early injury, what appeared to be a hamstring injury. So are we going to see now a midfield of Gutierrez, Pineda, and Ordahel, depending on Kwame's health? And when Kwame is healthy, is he going to take the place of Ordahel or Pineda? So these are things we got to see. I would like to see Pineda be starting over Ordahel, but if the coaching staff thinks his usefulness is that of a utility type player, then he will probably remain the first man off the bench, filling in on the defensive line, filling in the midfield as needed, or if they're trying to see a game out, coming in, taking out an attacking player and bringing Pineda in and then going to a more defensive formation. So that is a long, long way of saying the defense looks to be a little improved, but we still haven't seen them at full strength. We've seen what Gutman and Barroso are capable of, obviously, with them each scoring a goal in this past game. Your two outside backs each getting goals, which is great. It does show how Berhalter wants to attack and how he wants to have his wingbacks push forward, but not just push forward for the sake of pushing forward, but you have to do it deliberately. And what we're seeing is Gutman and Barroso putting pressure on the opposing wingbacks and defensive line. And we saw it against Columbus at the beginning of the half, but that was almost at the beginning of the season, I should say. In game one, we saw the outside backs, Dean and Gutman, getting high up the field, and that kind of pinned Columbus's defensive line back, and they couldn't push Farsi up the field like we've seen him get in the last couple of games. I think he's already got a goal too as well. So that game against Columbus, we saw it, and Columbus adjusted and was able to push back, ultimately winning that game 4-2. Against Dallas, we saw when Barroso comes in, he pushes all the way up. He gets in the box. He gets his goal, and Dallas is unable to counter because he's so high up the field. Or Dallas is unable to they didn't want to send their players forward. They didn't want to leave Barroso unmarked. Or because they are staying back and marking him and not taking the chance on leaving him unmarked to spring a counterattack, it thwarts their offense a little bit. So we are seeing that with the outside backs, which is an improvement on the defense. Again, it's a big leap from when Ezra Henriksen was coaching and just saying wingbacks need to go forward. It's a big difference from when Klopas was coaching and saying, we're going to play three in the back and figure it out in the midfield and try to dominate the midfield when there was really nobody who could do that. So I like that. And I think the possession style of play, playing out the back that you commented on, Ryan, we got to give that a little bit more time because we don't have our starters in there. We don't have guys who are used to playing a higher tempo. We don't have guys who are used to playing together. This team still needs to gel a little bit. So while this is a huge win, it is one win of three, and we still have to get away from giving up a lead like we did against Columbus and DC. We have to maintain this form from Dallas, which is going to be more difficult as we travel back to the Eastern Conference. And if you want to just look at trends, Chicago lately over the last several seasons has been pretty darn good against Western Conference opponents, and this match on Saturday was no exception. So when they get back into conference play, in Eastern Conference play, that's really where they're going to really need to show their chops and really see if this defense can play out of the back and maintain that possession. So to answer specifically your question of do you think if play continues to look like it has, Greg should still try to play more possession style? I think regardless, that is how he's going to play. That is his style. So if it looks like the way it has in the past, well, which game are we talking about? Where it worked for a while against Columbus and then they adjusted, where it was kind of half working against DC and then against Dallas, it actually ended up paying off when you had Barroso and Gutman playing back there together. So I think we're going to continue to see this, and I think we're only going to have the proper evaluation of whether we play out of the back and maintain this possession style when we get a full strength starting 11. So that it's going to take a few games, but but we're going to get there. And then we'll see what the club wants to do over the summer transfer window. If they want to bring in another midfielder or D mid, someone who can come in and either play next to or in place of Kellen Acosta if needed, someone who can really help out that back line with that possession. But also, speaking of Chris Brady, as much as we're supporting him, he also has to learn this new style and what's expected of the goalkeeper. And we're going to look at some advanced goalkeeping stats that are going to be indicative of that. There are a couple times when he needs to know not to play the ball up the middle to, say, Orahel, who's dropping back, or to a Turan or Elliott or Sam Rogers, who are being pressed by the opponent. And it's all about unbalance. The reason you play out of the back like that, and the reason why you have a defender taking a goal kick to your keeper, is to try and see where the press is going to come from, and then either play through it or play around it quickly. And that's another thing that the whole squad has to learn that we haven't seen to its full potential yet, is that quick transition and switch of the fields. And when the Fire did that, and when the Fire do that, Ryan, not only will that hopefully speak to having some creativity in what to do in the final third, but that again will unbalance the opponent. It will allow them to play faster. It will allow them to get around any sort of press and maintain that possession and hopefully create some more goal scoring chances. So I hope that answers your email. I guess that was a much longer explanation than perhaps a 3-4 line email deserved, but I appreciate you writing in, Ryan, and kicking us off with our discussion here. So to get back to the match, it was a scoreless first half, and Dallas ended up breaking open the scoring in the 57th minute. Logan Farrington gets the goal in the 57th. Then it's Chicago who goes on a flurry of goals, 3 goals in a 9-minute span. Gutman scores in the 82nd. Barroso, not even 6 minutes after coming onto the pitch for his first MLS start. And from what I heard someone say, his first pro start, or not start, his first MLS appearance and one of his first pro appearances. I guess he was playing in the second league. I don't know. I think there was a lot of caveats to that piece of trivia, but his first MLS minutes, he comes in, not even 6 minutes in, scores in the 84th minute. And then it's Kuipers scoring on a penalty kick to put the game away, 90+1. And we can't, of course, forget to mention Chris Brady's penalty kick save. And man, if the Dallas shooter, I think it was Musa, if he just took a little bit off of his shot, Brady was diving left. But because the shooter shot it right down the middle, didn't try a Panenka, just blasted it down the middle, Brady left his foot hanging out, and he was able to make a kick save on it, and it hits his foot and goes up and over the bar. So had the Dallas shooter taken just a little bit off of that shot, Brady may have been too far over, and that ball would have gone right down the middle. Now, the game would have probably still ended 3-2, which, by the way, I'm going to pat myself on the back where I can. I predicted this as Chicago Fire 3-2 game, and at halftime, I'm looking at it still going, it's either going to be 1-0 or 3-2. I can't tell how many goals are going to pop in the second half, but I should have stuck with my gut in my original prediction, because there were goals in this game, and fortunately, the Chicago Fire found more of them than FC Dallas. Now, looking at the statistics on this one, as we like to do here, the Chicago Fire actually had more possession, about 54% possession on the night, 13 shots, 7 on goal. The defense blocked 4 shots. A pretty good offensive performance for the Fire statistically. They had 520 passes, completed it at an 86.2% rate, only 2 total crosses. So you saw them trying to work the ball around a lot more. And 7 offside, though. They were offside 7 times. To me, I'm okay with that. I'm going to live with 3 or 4 offsides a game. That shows that they're pushing, that they're trying to play that ball through, that they're trying to stretch the back line. I don't think there were any where it was like a lazy play by the attacking player who just didn't get back in time. A couple of mistimed runs, perhaps. So I can live with this offside number given how they were being called offsides in the game. The Fire ended up with the 2.5 XG. So they actually made the most of their chances here. When you're getting a PK that's anywhere between a 0.8 and a 0.95 XG, the Fire ended up having about 2 goals off of a goal and a half XG. So not a bad offensive efficiency night. 5 saves by Brady, 4 clearances by the defense, 14 fouls committed by The Fire, including 3 yellow cards. They did get outdueled in the air, and this is a difficult stat. This is something that you thought the Fire would be better at, especially the week after facing DC United and Christian Benteke. The Fire were outdueled in the air 15-6. So this is something they've got to work on, whether it's set pieces, whether it's crosses, whatever the case is. The Fire have got to get better in the air. And also, if you want to look at the 5-minute breakdowns and kind of the game flow, if you will, the Chicago Fire did control most of this match, and I think that 54% possession number is pretty accurate there. So those are the statistics, but really the one thing that changed the game, and this is what we haven't seen, and I put it out on social media, and I'm eating my words because I said I don't know who on the bench is going to come in and change the game. But then you get Barroso and Barlow in the 78th, and then you get 3 Fire goals. So that I guess it was Barroso coming in. I guess you got to give credit where credit's due. Barlow coming in and harassing the back line there. And it was Berhalter making the right moves. Pulling out Glasgow, putting in Barlow, pulling out Dean, putting in Barroso, and then pulling out Orhel and bringing in Sam Williams, which, by the way, that is Sam Williams' second first-team appearance. So he will be unable to appear for the Chicago Fire senior team in any games going forward unless they actually sign him to a first-team contract. So he will be he may be able to get a couple more. I think he can still get his four-day call-ups. He has 2 more 4-day call-ups, but will not be able to actually appear in the matches for the Fire. So we'll see how Berhalter and his coaching staff manage the roster with that. Hopefully we get Zinkernagel back fairly quickly, and we won't have to worry about that and get some more of that midfield depth going. So that is the long and the short of the game. I think what was really telling about it was, the Fire giving up the early goal gets called back for an offside call. And I'm looking at this play going, oh boy, the back line is not communicating well. You see that Gutman and Elliott are not on the same page. And if Chris Brady isn't going to be the captain of the defense, and even if he is, it's got to be Jack Elliott who is setting where the line is. And we have seen too many times in the past and this season already where Chicago Fire defenders are just marking space in the 6-yard box. They're not stepping up and picking up runners. They're not tracking runners into their zone or tracking their man across the box, however they want to play it on a given night. And you saw Gutman back up to the 6-yard box, and then he sees Elliott is 2-3 yards ahead of him, and he jumps forward right before that ball gets played, and Musa is called offside after VAR review. You were that close. You were half a step of Andrew Gutman recognizing that he was too far back and not in line with his center back from the Fire going down 1-0 in the first half. So their defense still needs to work on communication. I'm hoping that comes with time. The other thing that we did see in that same sequence was Chris Brady stayed on his line and the ball was shot near post and went right past him. Again, fortunately, VAR overturned it. Then on the actual goal, we see Brady come off his line, and some criticism has been put on him that he should have stayed home, that he had Rodgers tracking back and running shoulder to shoulder with the attacker, and that Brady would have been better served had he stayed on his line rather than seeing Farrington, just kind of chip it over, just barely chip it over him as he comes out to make a sliding save. Some people said, well, Rodgers probably was a little behind in opposition and Brady had to adjust his body so he didn't crash into all of them. Whatever the case was, I think that goal that was let in and disallowed by VAR stuck in Brady's head for that second half. And he said, I need to come off my line when these guys get in the box. And also, he's probably thinking, I need to come off my line if my defenders aren't going to be picking up their marks and if they're not going to be clearing the ball out. So I think that's Brady maybe trying to do too much or trying to adjust his game in the second half to the opposition, which I'm glad he's thinking, glad he's doing that. In that case, he made the commitment and it turned out that he got scored on. I'm not going to say it was the wrong one because I don't know what's going through his head at the time. The TV angles only are showing part of it, but that is something to watch for as well. How early opponent opportunities and shots and scoring are going to be affecting Chris Brady. And this is a little bit more of a Chris Brady centric episode, who, by the way, turned 21 just this past week. So happy birthday to Chris Brady. Still got another year to be on that under 22 list, that's for sure. Now, for additional commentary on the match, we're going to turn it over to our good friend John Donovan here. And he has everything about this match from his reaction. And again, John actually played professionally in Venezuela back in the 70s, and since retired has become a successful businessman in the Chicago area. So he's got a very unique approach to it. We appreciate John's contributions to the show. And John's segment brought to you by Skira Icelandic Spring Water. I get to go take my water break while you guys get to hear all of John's commentary. So John, take it away.
Nick, John Donovan talking about the MLS and the Chicago Fire. Nick, I am excited. We have finally, I believe, passed the Klopas curse. What I saw Saturday night was a good MLS team that isn't constantly changing their formations, changing positions, changing the way people play. I mean, for the last 15 years under Klopas and his Aurora, it has been really bad. Today, we've got the talent. I think we're developing the talent. My grandson is playing in the Chicago Fire Farm Club. And I see the talent. They've got a lot of young people that are very anxious to make that move. It's exciting to see Oriel at center mid. I really love that, to see Gutierrez playing well, Pineda playing well. And hey, this guy Rogers has come in, and they've only given up a few goals, and he's not a walking red card. He seems to be under control. He and Elliott, I sort of like the way they play back there. And Gutman is playing. He's the player that I thought he was years ago. He went down once in this game, and I really had almost a heart attack because he and Bombi are lighting up that left side of the field. I can't say enough for those two. It's exciting to watch them. It seems like Bombia and Gutman are reading from the same mind. Bombia will cut towards the goal and Gutman will take it outside, or vice versa. They really got a nice game going with them. And with a center mid that can play that position, I'm really optimistic about this squad. Where it will be at the end of the season, I think a lot of it will depend on how well Brady starts passing out to the wings. That is something he's really got to work with. He seems hesitant, and that hesitancy gives a lot of confidence to the other squad. When I played, there was a hesitant guy, or I hate to say it, even a guy a little hurt, you knew that you had to take advantage of the play. But great game. I think the Fire are going to be competitive this year. I was so excited when this coach was named, and now we're starting to turn it on. So the guys I thought that had really good games with Auriel, Gutman, and Bombia. I mean, those three just really played well. And I just kind of have to add a little bit to Rogers in the back. He's not a walking yellow/red card guy. He seems to be doing the job. He's a tall, mindful guy. I really hope he can make it with him and Elliott. And they say we're bringing in a really strong under 22 right wing. So I'm looking forward to seeing this whole squad in the back. I believe literally this could be a good team. The players that did not play well, I thought one was Glasgow. He's not meant for this league. He's a little bit slow. He doesn't seem like he anticipates that well. He probably will play a lot of soccer, but it's not going to be at the MLS level. And then finally, Dean struggled a bit. He had a big player. And Brady. Brady is going to make it or break it this year with our coach. He plays out of the back, and you can't be hesitant when you're playing out of the back if it's a goalie. If those guys start seeing hesitant play, you're going to see guys playing right up on those goal lines. They're going to smother him if he's hesitant. Now, if he's got a little variety in his back game, it'll be to his advantage. So let's see how it goes. I know that old Greg had a team, Columbus team, in the finals one year, and the goalie made a mistake in the first 3 seconds or 7 seconds of the game, and they lost 1-0. So he wants to play from the back, but you got to have a goalie that can do that well. Thank you very much, Nick. Sorry I'm late. If you use this later edition, great. Take care. Hi, Mike. Nick, John.
John, thank you so much for the contribution. John really touched on a lot of kind of the highs and lows of the play there, which was a perfect segue into kind of the second half of the show, talking about Chris Brady and his goalkeeping here. John, I do want to comment quickly on Omari Glasgow. I think a lot of Fire fans are very high on him. We've seen what he can do in the CONCACAF region, playing against some of the minnows of CONCACAF, so to say, and being Guyana's all-time leading goal scorer already at his young age. But is that going to translate to some of these bigger, stronger, faster MLS backlines and more talented goalkeepers? That's something we're going to have to keep an eye on. He got a taste of the first team last season in MLS last season, and it'll be great to see how he and Marin Haile Selassie kind of split minutes behind Zinkernagel and Bamba. And again, to be determined when Chris Mueller returns. I hope he's getting to spend time, as much time as he can, with his new child and his family. So now moving into kind of our goalkeeping analysis here. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, like we got to keep an eye on Chris Brady because he's had some great plays. He made team of the match day last weekend, which, by the way, the Chicago Fire have had someone on the team of the match day each of the first 3 weeks. Brian Gutierrez on opening day for his brace, Hugo Kuipers for his brace in week 2, and Hugo Kuipers again this week for his goal and assist. Did he have an assist or his goal? And yeah, goal, assist, and drawn penalty. And also last week, I think Kuipers was on the bench for team of the match day too. So we had someone on the bench for team of the match day. So Kuipers is off to a great start. Anyone who threw a few bucks down on him as their golden boot dark horse, like you're looking pretty good right now. But also, it's great to see the league recognizing the Chicago Fire players for their contributions as well. And even if they are only on 4 points through 3 games, these individual performances are being recognized. All right, back to the real conversation here. The goalkeeping conversation. So I'm over at fbref.com looking at some of these advanced goalkeeping stats to see what we can glean from them. Now, I don't want to always use like goals against and save percentage, and those are decent, are kind of starting points, I think, for conversations about goalkeeping. Because to me, goals allowed and save percentage is just as much of a defensive metric as it is just a goalkeeper's analysis here. So the Chicago Fire, unfortunately, have given up 7 goals over 3 games. And crazily, they've given up 2 PKs, but one was saved and one was a miss. So none of those 7 have come from the 2 PKs they gave up. Only Orlando City and Toronto have given up more goals. Each of them have given up 8. The Galaxy, RSL, and Dallas have also given up 7 goals. And then you see most of the teams in the league have given up 6, 5, 4, 3 goals. St. Louis is the only team after 3 games to have not given up a goal. And Minnesota, Red Bulls, and San Diego have only given up 1 goal each through these first 3 games. So are the Chicago Fire, based on this, on par with Orlando, Toronto, the Galaxy, Salt Lake, and Dallas? I don't know. Maybe it's too early to tell as a team, but is Chris Brady on par with those type of goalkeepers? I would like to think that he is better than all the keepers on those teams. I mean, Martin Pass, sorry, I'm butchering his name. But Dallas's keeper has been regarded as one of the better keepers in MLS, but Chris Brady just outperformed him. And it's like the pitching matchup in Major League Baseball. Like, they don't actually pitch against each other, but everyone looks at it as a pitcher's duel, or as that's the matchup. They're going head to head. So if you want to look at it through that lens, then yeah, Brady just beat Dallas's keeper head-to-head, so to say. But Brady absolutely had the better game, that's for sure, especially coming away with a 3-1 win and a penalty save. So that's the goals allowed metric that we're looking at here. Now, there's another metric that Chicago is not doing so well, that Chris Brady is not doing so well relative to the rest of the league. And it's called post-shot expected goals. Now, this is how likely the keeper, it's based on how likely the keeper is to save the shot. All right. And right now, Chris Brady is at a 6.8, and that is fifth worst in the league. So let's see. An underlining to the mention missing data. So how likely, well, actually, maybe I'm reading the chart upside down. Post-shot expected goals is the expected goals based on how likely the goalkeeper is to save the shot. So his expected goals is 6.8. So yeah, that is low. It is bottom 5 in the league. And again, the best keepers are in Austin, Minnesota, and St. Louis with anywhere from a 1.3 to a 2.0. So that is a problem. The Chicago Fire are giving up too many high quality opportunities, and Chris Brady is not saving them. Now, there's another metric too that says post-shot expected goals per shot on target. So giving up shots on target, the Fire improve a little bit. They're a little more middle of the pack. Brady's a little more middle of the pack with a 0.37, where you have the best teams are at a 0.18, 0.19, and the worst teams are at a 0.51 or a 0.46. Again, sorry, LA Galaxy, you're on the bottom of this metric as well. But here's where we start to see Chris Brady emerge as one of the better keepers in the league. If you want to look at advanced stats, you look at post-shot expected goals minus goals allowed. And the way this is measured is you take your post-shot expected goals and you subtract the actual goals, and the higher the number, the better luck or an above average ability to stop shots is measured. So the best post-shot expected goals minus goals allowed right now is San Jose with a 2.8, St. Louis with a 2, and Colorado with a 1.8. Chris Brady and the Fire come in at 7th with a 0.8, tied with Minnesota United. The worst team is Toronto with a minus 2.4, FC Dallas with a minus 2, and LAFC with a minus 1.6. So when you take away the goals allowed from the expected goals, the Fire actually are in the top third, if not the top quarter of the league. And if you take that number and multiply it and divide it per 90 minutes, the Fire are still right there at 8th in the league. So when you really get into some of the advanced metrics, Chris Brady is, top quarter of the league in goalkeeping. Great shot stopping ability, something we as Fire fans know, but now it seems like the rest of the league is starting to take notice of. A few other things that are mentioned, though, that is a huge drawback to Brady's game and something that he needs to work on is his completion percentage. His passing completion percentage for launched passes, this is over 40 yards, is at 23.5%, 4 out of 17. So he really doesn't have a large sample size. The most we've been seeing are up in the 60s, Colorado and Minnesota, and the Fire are one of the least likely to be playing long balls. Obviously, we've talked about Berhalter's possession style, played from the back. So the Fire and Chris Brady actually are tied for the third least amount of launches, balls that go over 40 yards, in the league. But Brady does have one of the worst completion percentages. Now, how much of a launched ball is on the keeper or on the players receiving it, getting in the right spot, positioning themselves, maintaining possession, having a good first touch? So again, that's one of those metrics where I don't think it is as useful to look at a keeper as it is kind of your entire possession analysis. So for the Fire as a team, they got to work on when Brady plays a long ball and how they maintain possession for it. Now, as far as total passes, the Chicago Fire are also towards the bottom of the league with 56 pass attempts from the goalkeeper, not including goal kicks. That is fifth lowest in the league, tied with San Jose. Meanwhile, you have a team like Columbus or Portland or Salt Lake who have over 110 each, 111, 117, 128 passes from their keeper. So those are the teams that you're seeing really play out of the back and get their keepers involved. As far as throwing the ball, though, we see Brady move up. He is eighth in the league, roughly, tied with a few other keepers for throws. So he does like to run that ball out and throw it rather than drop it down and play it out of his feet. If you want to look at the average length of his passes, he is also in one of the lower parts of the league, 28.1 yards average length per pass. The lowest, San Diego at 22.7, the highest, Minnesota at 45.0. So, again, they're not asking Brady to make these long balls and to really play fast and play long counterattacking type stuff. The average length of the goal kicks, the Chicago Fire have the lowest in the league. The average length of the goal kick is 19 yards for the Chicago Fire. So they are absolutely playing it short, playing it possession, playing it out of the back. Now, here's a number, though. The next advanced metric in goalkeeping that we can really start to pin on Chris Brady is how he fares against crosses. Now, the Fire have faced 44 crosses, good enough for like 9th or 10th in MLS, the 9th or 10th most crosses faced. Brady has stopped 0, obviously, then for a stop percentage, a crosses stopped percentage of 0. Now, that's not the worst thing in the world. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other keepers who also have stopped 0 crosses, who have faced around 40 crosses as well. And those are the keepers for Orlando, Portland, New England, Vancouver, and Atlanta. Again, not a lot of keepers there really bestowing confidence. Maybe Brad Guzan, but he's not coming off his line as much anymore. Maybe Gaese. We'll see. But honestly, the highest stopping percentage is actually Austin's keeper, who has stopped 5 out of 31. So he's coming off of his line just a little bit more than the rest of the league. So we need to see Brady be more controlling and more dominant in the air, in and around his box, in and around the 6-yard box especially. I think we've seen opponents play corner kicks really away from the keeper for just that reason. Brady is a big guy. I forget his exact stats, but he is a big guy. Having stood next to him a couple times, big dude. Not that I'm one to measure up against by any means. Here's my little 5'7", 5'6", 5'7", 165 frame here. But yeah, I was more of an attacking midfielder back in my day. But Brady is a big dude. He can go up and get it. But, when you've got guys like Turan and Elliott and Rogers, other big guys, you're going to let them put in a lot of the work and really kind of control the line. So that's something that we got to watch Brady try to make an improvement on throughout the course of the season, how he controls the box and how he controls it in the air. The other interesting stats, too, sweeper keeper stats here. How many defensive actions will the keeper make outside of the box? And right now, Chris Brady's only got one of the lowest in Major League Soccer. Meanwhile, it is Inter Miami's keeper team that have the most defensive actions outside of the box with 14. All the other MLS clubs have 6 or less. So that is telling that they're not being called upon to come out and make these long saves or make these defensive actions. The other thing to keep in mind, too, is what is the average distance of their defensive actions from the goal? Brady's coming out only 10 yards on that one. Meanwhile, if you want to look at Miami, they're coming out just 7 yards on average for all those 14 defensive actions that they're making. So when Brady is called upon to come out and block a shot, not be credited with a save, but more of a defensive action, then he's doing the one time he had to do it, he was about at the PK spot, 10 yards out. Most other keepers, when they are coming out and making defensive actions, they are doing it, between 22 yards from the goal all the way down to, say, 14 yards from the goal. That's the top range of the top half of the league. So Brady is staying more in his box. He's staying more closer to his line. So that is where I think there is a fair criticism of Chris Brady. But we also have to put that into context. It's his third year. I think it's his third year as the full-time starter for the Fire. Just turned 21 years old. This is something that he has to grow and learn, and then he'll be able to take that next step in his career and in his development. So those are the numbers. Those are the things to look for. Is Chris Brady a top 5 goalie in MLS? Is he a top 2 goalie in MLS, like I was joking about on Twitter? I think there's a case to be made, but we're only 3 games in. It's such a small sample size. And when you give up 4 goals in your opener, whether it's the fault of the keeper or the defense or the whole team or the tactics, that's not going to look well on that discussion there. So I think Chris Brady still has a lot to prove if he's going to be considered one of the top 5 keepers in MLS, but he is on his way to doing that, at least that we've seen through 3 games, with the things that we pointed out where he can improve. Now, looking around the league, just to kind of do a quick recap here as we wind up our show, Columbus and Houston drew 0-0, which, considering Columbus's 4 goals against the Fire, I'm surprised they weren't able to find the back of the net at home against Houston. One of the big results, Seattle, 5-2 over LAFC. Seattle, people are talking about them as a contender in the West. Jordan Morris sets the record for most goals in Seattle Sounders history. I think he's on 86 or 87 goals after that match. I forget exactly what it is, but he has definitely justified his DP tag, whether it was a performance-based DP tag or a salary thing rather than strictly his performance, but all-time leading goal scorer in Seattle Sounders history now. Atlanta Red Bulls 0-0. So after all of these goals going through and into the net over the first 2 weeks of the season, this last weekend did not have as many goals across as many games. Cincinnati beats Toronto 2-0. DC beats Kansas City 2-1. Philadelphia goes to New England, gets 2-0 there. Another win for the Union. Surprise team in the East, given everything that they've done with their roster the last offseason. New York City beats Orlando 2-1. Colorado travels to Austin and comes back with a 1-0 victory. Nashville defeats Portland 2-0. My youngest son is very happy about that. We went to a Nashville game in 2023, and he has been a fan of it ever since. We saw Nashville play against New York City in their season opener. It was the Johnny Cash Man in Black jersey reveal. Cash's son was playing the guitar riff before the game, and apparently my youngest just fell in love with it because he loves Nashville. That's his team now for no other reason than he was down there in the stadium and enjoying it. And so, of course, we are going this season to the Nashville game with him, his godfather, and his godbrother. So that'll be a fun matchup. If you hear anyone from the 200 section shouting, "Go Nashville," yeah, you'll know that's my 6-year-old. All right. Other matches, San Diego with an impressive 3-1 victory at Real Salt Lake. Vancouver wins a Canadian rivalry matchup 2-0 over Montreal. And also, it looks like Ryan Gauld may not be available for Vancouver against the Chicago Fire this upcoming week. So that we don't like to see players injured, but that does bode well for the Fire. Minnesota steals one at San Jose, 1-0. And then the Sunday games, Miami with a 1-0 victory over Charlotte. Again, Messi on the bench, but not coming in. Zaha, it was so great watching him. He had so many good plays, good moments on the ball. He's exciting every time he's on the ball for Charlotte. They need someone else to help him out. He can't do everything. They had a really good first couple of games, and maybe just being in Miami, playing against maybe there's a little bit of that Miami mentality playing against them. Charlotte just couldn't get anything going outside of Zaha, and he couldn't find the net either. Then the Sunday night soccer match, which I love the Sunday night soccer. I love the hype. I love being able just to kick, put my feet back up, and watch a game and just ease on into the week. St. Louis goes to the Galaxy, sends them to their third straight loss. St. Louis 3-0. And again, Ramon Berkey named player of the match day, keeping his third straight clean sheet, keeping a clean sheet against the Galaxy, coming up with some big saves. Now Galaxy, 3 straight losses for the defending MLS Cup champ. Are we worried? Should the Galaxy fans be worried? I don't think so yet. They've got a lot of guys coming back from injury as well. So I'm not concerned about them. And as far as it goes, they're in continental competitions, and all you got to do is make the playoffs and make a run. So that's all I wanted to talk about tonight. I want to thank you all for tuning in, listening, wherever you get your podcasts or wherever you are on YouTube and watching the show. Thank you so much. Please continue to share the show, grow the channel, like, subscribe, rate, review. And as always, let's go Fire.